I'm getting more and more enraged by the fucking minute. So I'm going to tell you now, some of this shit not going to make no sense. If you want to fact check me, please come with legitimate facts and not based in white supremacist, Zionist fucking bullshit. I'm not going to do it with you. How the fuck does Israel keep getting away with this shit? How do anybody keep getting away with this shit? How do people? And then this is not the first time people have used God to justify a genocide. An entire cabinet of Yemeni officials gone. An entire department of Al Jazeera journalists, reporters, and cameramen gone. 434,000 Palestinians gone. And they doing all of this motherfucking shit to terraform a region and build a port that they are likely going to use slave labor to function. Again, right? Hear me. Here's my thought. All of this shit with immigration, militarizing an entire city, that being DC. I don't know if DC is considered a city. I know it's not considered a state, whatever it is. They're militarizing DC. Trying to throw motherfuckers in prison while we know our prison system is just a modern form, a modern reformation of chattel slavery. Okay? Some are going to concentration camps, and I guarantee you they're going to try to use slave labor over in that place that does not belong to them people to build another nation yet again. They're going to do the same shit that they did to build the United States in occupied Palestine. They're going to do the same shit. That's what this is about. I feel like I'm actively watching what happened to Black people, to African bodies, and indigenous American people before my fucking eyes as I am watching what's happening in Palestine. Abhorrent, right? Now, hear me. I am under the impression, when people are like, oh, this is anti-Semitic, I'm under the impression that Semitism is granted by blood, right? It's something you are born into. Which I wasn't sure was exclusive to a region, in ethnicity, or a specific group of people. But from my understanding, aren't Palestinians literally Semitic? Right. And then as it pertains to Judaism, just as a religion, aren't there Palestinian Jews? Right. And just to make sure I'm also understanding, Israel wasn't actually acknowledged as a state until 1948, right? After the Nakba, which was another genocide. Right. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I just want to be clear. We're doing all of this for money and power. And aside from the fact that this shit happening at all is fucking egregious, these bitch-ass bastards are making things so egregiously expensive that we wouldn't even be able to afford to fund the fucking economy in this new neo-colonial fucking state that they're likely going to use slave labor to build. wanted to, as a general population, patron a neo-colonial ethno-state. We cannot even afford to buy food. So the only people who would be able to engage in this fucking horrendous colonization will be the same motherfuckers that's doing it in the first place. And I want to make it explicitly clear. I have no interest in funding a white supremacist neo-colonial ethno-state. Unfortunately, I already live in one. And because systems of oppression reinforce themselves, I'm already doing it against my fucking will. And I fucking loathe it. But not being able to afford to do so is not the metric here. It honestly just adds insult to injury. Because it's like, great, you're exterminating another native population for a neo-colonial ethno-state in which you can use slave labor to build a fucking den just so that nobody but y'all can afford to exist there. Again. Because they did the same shit here. To Turtle Island, which is now called the United States. They can't even do no new shit. They just keep doing the same bullshit. And what's fucking me up about it, on top of all the, like, I am sick to my fucking stomach. What's really fucking me up is that they keep doing the shit because it's working.
Today, we are going to discuss some extremely controversial topics. And because this is going to go on YouTube, there are certain words I cannot say. So just to warn you, I will write down these words, but I will not say them, because if I do say them, then I will get censored on YouTube. Today, we're going to look at how evil triumphs. Why is the world so evil? And there's going to be a lot of extremely disturbing topics we're going to discuss. But you're mature, and it's important that we discuss these topics in order to understand how the world works. So let's just start. And we will do a lot of speculation and theorizing in this class. So do not take this as gospel. Do not believe this is the truth. The entire point of this class is to help you develop the theories and the ideas to better understand the world. These are tools. Okay, this is not truth. These are tools. All right. So the first question I have for you is, what is happening in Israel? Right now, as you know, Israel is besieging, bombarding Gaza. You might have seen the videos on social media. It is disturbing. It is terrible what is happening. The word that is happening, the word that we use for what is happening in Gaza is this word. You are not allowed to say this word on YouTube, but that is the intention. What I will argue, though, is that the truth is far more disturbing than this. What is really happening in Gaza is a ritual sacrifice. And this happens quite often in human history. If you go back and you look at the real history of humanity, this happens quite often. Some of the most famous examples are the Aztecs. We've dug up temples of the Aztecs, and inside the temples are thousands and thousands of human skulls. So before they went to war, they practiced human sacrifice. They would commit mass murder of their enemies in public. So the Aztecs were really famous for this. The Phoenicians, specifically the Carthaginians, we will discuss them later this semester, but the Phoenicians were also famous for a particular type of sacrifice, which is child sacrifice. The Romans wrote histories insulting the Phoenicians for practicing this sort of sacrifice. But the Romans themselves practiced human sacrifice. What they would do is that after every major war, they would capture all the major leaders, all their enemies, and they would parade their enemies through the streets of Rome. This is something called a triumph. At the end of the triumph, they would gather enemies at the temple of Jupiter. Jupiter is their god.
Here's the twist. The majority of Palestinians are of Jewish descent and are ethnically more Jewish than the European and American Jews who went and created Israel. So every time a Palestinian is murdered by an Israeli, a person who's more Jewish is killed by a person who's less Jewish. It's true that the Israeli is actually practicing Judaism or is a secular Jew. And it's true that those Palestinians are Christians and Muslims whose ancestors converted from Judaism to Christianity and Islam. But it's just a weird, ironic twist. I mean, it's embittering how ironic it is. It just doesn't make any sense.
Israel is like a lesion or a blister that forms on your skin, and the totality of your sickness that you've been hiding is revealed by that blister appearing. You know, the Jews were hated in Europe, persecuted in Europe for centuries. The Holocaust didn't happen in a vacuum. Hitler and the Nazis were the children of the West. It was a crescendo of anti-Jewish hatred, and Israel is the creation of that hatred, that anti-Jewish hatred. Zionism is the most explicit expression of anti-Jewish hatred that you can imagine. I mean, short of the Holocaust. You know, get the Jews out of Europe, exile them somewhere else. It's exile. It's just another banishment for the Jews. But you get to call it empowerment and so on, make it sound positive, because instead of calling it a banishment, you're calling it returning them to their so-called homeland. But basically, you just want them out. You just want to get them out of your country. It's banishment, it's exile. You know, Zionism was originally funded and supported by some of the worst and most powerful anti-Semites in Europe. So it was created by their hatred. The exile of the Jews was conducted using the logic and the rationale and the mechanisms of racist supremacist colonization, but it was banishment. The dehumanizing, dismissiveness, and contempt for the indigenous people, the Palestinians, that's classic Western colonization. And has been maintained exclusively by violence and by causing regional instability, which is in and of itself an encapsulation of how the West operates in the world. And then you have the fact that Israel is also an encapsulation or an embodiment or an incarnation of the military-industrial complex. So you have the anti-Semitism, you have the racism, you have the white supremacy, you have the violence, you have the greed, you have the predation, and you have the parasitic character of the West, all summarized, all incarnated in Israel. Israel is like the logo of the West. It's a logo of Western so-called civilization, Western imperialism. It includes every aspect in the entity, the Zionist entity, includes every aspect that you find. It's an expression of every aspect that you find in Western colonization, Western imperialism, and Western so-called civilization. I mean, even down to the fact that it calls itself a democracy in the midst of the so-called despotic Muslim world, despotic Arab world, Joseph Borrell's garden surrounded by a jungle. So yes, Israel, the Western colonizer project that is called Zionism, is all the sickness, it's all the cruelty, it's all the savagery and stupidity of Western so-called civilization, boiled down to its impure essence. And that's why you can see that the perpetuation of this project is unraveling the West. Your insistence to maintain this project is destroying your own societies, your own economies. And the tool that you use to rule the world is actually becoming the main source for the alienation and the estrangement of the whole world away from you. The thing that you tried to use as your instrument or your tool, your device, for controlling the Middle East, for controlling the Arab world, for controlling basically the global South, because Israel was also historically used to control Africa as well. So this tool that you have employed as an instrument of control has now become an instrument by which you are losing control of everything.